today what we're going to show you is we're going to show you a little bit about the process we've been going through to put up fencing. So the goal is to fence all 10 acres that we have here. As you can probably see along the line, we've probably got a couple acres fenced in. This was our biggest expansion so far. We decided there's a lot of different ways you can do fencing. There's so many different types of fencing. The way we went with was this type of wire, so 2x4 standard rolled fencing wire, and we use wooden posts. Now we're on really wet land, and so wooden posts, what we're doing with most of our farm options is an economic way of going about it. This was the cheapest option. Steel posts of course will last longer, but we wanted to go the wooden posts for now. We're basically just trying to get a base set up. We'll expand, we'll improve as we go. So what we've been doing is we've been doing a starter hole with this this item. This is really good. This is just a steel, I don't know what you call it, a steel pick. We got it at Princess Auto. It's about $20. We'll drive it to the ground. We'll do a starter hole, sort of like this. Believe it or not, we actually ran out of posts, so I can't show you the whole thing, but this is exactly what we do. When we get just a little bit of a hole, we'll use a spiked post and we'll put it in there, just so that it's flimsy, so it'll kind of be standing just like that. And then when it's about enough that it'll stand up straight, we'll take this tool, which is a post pounder. Primitive as it gets, this is a wonderful thing. It came down picking between this and a sledgehammer, and there was a lot of back and forth. I honestly can't figure out why anybody would use a sledgehammer over this. So if I was trying to hit this with a sledgehammer, I would have to aim and pray to God I didn't miss and break my knees. It's crazy. I couldn't imagine. I think what people argue is that if you actually hit it with a sledgehammer, it's easier to drive in. This is beyond easy. So what we do is we get the post in just so it's standing up enough on its own. You apply this to the top and you drive it down. So it is a good workout, but if you do drive it in about 6 times, this has already been driven a little bit, but no more than 6 pounds, it's solid. That's as solid as a sledgehammer is going to do, considering it's driven directly into the ground. There's always going to be some give, but our fence always holds. So that's it. So all we do, just use a pick, dig a little bit of a hole, use a post pounder. You don't need any type of fancy special equipment, and anybody who can lift this, God, probably 30 pounds, maybe 20 or 30 pounds, can do it. So, piece of cake, and I love these tools. They're very easy. There's no oil, there's no machinery. Before we actually used a tractor to drive down some posts at a previous place we were at. Of course, that works wonderfully. You need a tractor. None of that's really necessary. This way works for us. Anyway, thanks for joining.
So we're going to continue on with how we fence our property, keeping in mind we wanted to do this debt-free, so this is only done by cash, so it's economical. So those of you who are thinking, I'd love to do this, I have to wait till retirement until I have the extra money, I'm going to show you how you can do these things on a budget and still feel good about it and safely enclose an area where your animals are safe. So I'm going to go over probably my favorite tool first. Is this very plain looking fencing tool, or fencing plier, as you may see. This one here I got from Princess Auto. As you can see, it's rusted. I think I got this maybe 2 years ago now, because I used it at the previous place. Rubber on the handle, so it's easy to grip. You don't feel the cold. This is my favorite tool, and you know, they used to make these way back when, and I have read that they were amazing that way and that these suck, but if you've never used the ones in the past, these are absolutely amazing. So as mine is well loved, so this here used to have ridges here, so you can use this as a place to hammer. So this here is a nice little way to grip, so I can grip fencing staples. These here, both sides, are actual wire cutters. And then this here, of course, this point is a godsend. So in the beginning, when we were fencing, our fencing plans, it was get it up, get the animals out, and then we would reconfigure later. So they weren't a permanent fixture. Now, the best part about this, I should have brought a hammer. So if there is a staple, let me just grab a handy staple here. So you can buy staples individually in a pack. They're super cheap, and you hammer them in, so obviously your aim has to be really good. My least favorite thing to do. So these are what fencing staples look like. So they're pointed, they can be this long or shorter here, and you basically hammer them in, and it creates a U, and it keeps your fencing attached to your post. Now, if you're removing it, this is going to be really hard to see here, but this would be completely driven in. And what you would do is you would either, go at it from this angle or this angle, whatever's convenient for you, and you would hammer this while turning. And then this acts like a pry bar, and you can basically use this to pry off your staple and safely remove your fence. It doesn't damage your fence. The staples even are reusable, so it's such a handy tool. And if you do any fencing at all, even if you were to use regular staples and chicken netting fencing, like if you need to remove it, this here to be able to grab and pull, or like grab and use it like a hammer like you would a nail, it's such a time saver. Like, I can't stress enough. You can find these anywhere from $11.99 up. This one here I think I paid $30 for. My favorite tool in my farm toolbox is this here. So this here is another one of my fancy favorite tools here. This is a newer one that we got. So if you're connecting rolls of fencing, you're never going to buy a fence that's going to be as long as you need, so you are going to have to connect it. And what these page wires usually have on the end is where they were cut. So you have these thin spokes, and we used to just twist them around, which is great, but they can become loose. It's really hard in the hands to do so, and it takes time. So what this tool here is a hognose ring plier. So you can use this actually in gardening if you're doing hog fencing to make trellises or anything like that. You can also use this with culinary aspects. So if you're doing things like bagging up your chicken, this can actually be used to close the bag. You see this type of thing actually a lot on bologna, I think, as a closing. So it can also be used for fabric and crafts. So it's actually a really handy tool. We got a brand name one for here. We're not brand name people. It's just this was most convenient because it was spring loaded. You can get them where you would have these as a single item and you have to put it in and then go. And I did not want to do that because I really like what we do is we get everything set up and then just bam, 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 everything kind of flows. So I didn't want to have to coordinate cold fingers or whatever, wet fingers, and try to get that done. For me, not gonna work. So it's easy. You just push in and it locks into place. To unlock, you just hit that again and it springs out so you can reload. So this is a really, really handy tool. And so I'm just gonna show you on this piece of fence here. So what you do is you get it around and you just close. It's not hard, you don't have much resistance, and then you're left with this here ring. So as you can see, this is actually also a thicker gauge than my fencing, the same as my staples. So it's quite nice. It has a great overlap here and secure. So I can put them in like as many as I want to hold them together. So this is a very useful tool. I was very glad that I made the jump to buy it, even though it was something that I wasn't going to use all the time. It's really good to have in your farm toolbox. So if you end up using things like hog panel, even if you're gardening and making those wonderful trellises, This is gonna help you grass or upholstery. This is gonna help you packaging chickens or turkeys. So it's a multi-use farm tool, which is exciting because it's very cheap. Again, I think some of them start at 19 and go up. This one, I can't remember exactly how much this one was, but this one also came with staples too. So again, this is my hognose pliers, another favorite in my farm tool box. So when you're on a homestead, the big thing I think some people don't think of maybe at first is you don't have electricity everywhere. Sometimes getting to certain parts of your property, it's going to be rough. You're going to have to walk. You know, it's going to be uneven terrain through brush, whatnot. So things that are portable, battery operated, and light and efficient are things that you're going to want to look at when you're looking to buy tools for a specific job. So what we have chosen here on our farm that we're really excited about is the Ryobi tools. So they're, you know, lime green. They're Home Depot's big brand. They are affordable for every budget, depending on what you're using for. They're light, they're battery operated, you know, and Home Hardware does Ryobi days. It feels like every other month, honestly. So if you missed one, you don't have to wait for it to come back. There's other brands that we could have went with that do have battery operated, like Makita and all of those, but the price goes way up. So when you have to balance that, you want something that's going to work for you, be budget-wise, and fit all of those boxes. So this here is our little compressor. So it does your gauge. You can set it here with this knob, which is super easy to use. It's an 18 volt, but we don't have 18 volt other tools. So what we are actually using, as I lied, this is actually 18. But we also have 16 and 14, so we also use that, and it runs perfectly. It just doesn't run as long, but it still gets the job done. So we're actually able to utilize the batteries that we have for other tools, such as the crown stapler, my floodlight, and my cordless screwdriver. So this tool kind of fit in with our package deal there. And it just sits in there. It's very easy to use. The only thing that I had with this compressor is when we got it, it was so confusing because this part here, this connection, was not included. Maybe we missed it in the ad, probably because we were in such a rush to get it. But that was not easy to find. To connect that, and then also the connections for the end of this hose that we had to buy separately to connect our tool. So those things I found a little frustrating. I wished it was like an add-on that you could have purchased, or it came up in the cart like what Amazon does actually. You know, like some people have also bought, you know, this plus this coupler in this rigid line. It would have been perfect because then we could have just put them all in the cart and got it. But overall, I'm so satisfied with this. This is super light. It's very quiet. So I can actually use it here and the animals do not mind it at all. I can still hear if we're doing fencing together and we're talking, I can still hear over it. I can still talk over it. And then be aware of my surroundings here because you know what, we are in the wilderness, so you never know.
I'm going to point out, it's super quiet for a compressor. You are going to hear it. It's loud. It's loud, but for a compressor, it's acceptable.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're gonna hear it.
So it is quiet for a compressor,
For sure.
but it is a compressor, so you are gonna hear it. Animals are gonna hear it, but I find my goats have taken off, so I can't show you that, but they are not affected when I do this. They're usually around, so it's quite surprising. So that is our compressor. It's super light and friendly. Now, this is my other pride and joy here. Like I mentioned before, with the staples, hammering in each one individually, at the least amount you're doing 3. It takes so much time. It's so frustrating to hold them and hammer them. So we made this investment here with this fencing stapler, and I absolutely love it. It's very easy to load here. So you just slide this back. This goes in, you put your staples in, done. It does jam on occasion, I find, but it's easy to just take this off, fix the jam, and put this back on, and it works good as new. Sometimes if this gets dirty, which it is now, sometimes these staples don't slide up, so you'll engage the gun and no staple will come out, and it's because this has not been shifted up, and you just have to, you know, kind of wipe it up. It does come with oil and a brush, so you can kind of keep it clean there. It does have a safety feature, which I'm really proud because I didn't check the gun before I did this, so it is actually on safety, which I'll admit I don't often remember to do, and it's just a super easy switch over. There is the trigger there, and overall this is quite light. I'd have to look up the specs, so we'll probably put them in the video above in writing there once we check. And then there's also the exhaust. So this is where the air is going to come out when you engage the gun, and you can actually turn this depending on how you're utilizing the gun, so you don't get a blast of air in the face. Always good. So this is my gun here. This is your connection piece here. Again, it just comes like this, and then you have to buy the connector to be able to connect your rigid line. So I'm just gonna connect here. As you can see, we really did our best to get the proper fit, and I had to use this white stuff to prevent leaking because you know, I'm not super experienced with buying these, and when you go to the hardware store and describe it, I think it's quite hard for them to understand exactly what you need, even though I took the hose in and the gun in. This is the best that I got, and he said, you know, use that white stuff. I don't know what it's called, for pipes or connections.
Like a thread tape. Yeah,
like a thread tape. And then that will be fine. Now, I do get a little loss of pressure sometimes, but it's not that bad. And so these are just the easy connectors.
Which you use for everything.
Yeah, you use for everything.
Air and water.
Yeah, we use them for our hoses too, actually, now that we are familiar with them. So it's quite great. And so you just put it up and locks into place. So easy peasy. Same here with our compressor. So what you want to look for, so there is the on button there. You can see my batteries in here. On this side, what you do every time you're done is you have to let all the air out. So you would go like this. It would just shoot out. Now it comes out with force. So be aware. So if you're doing it close here, any dirt or sand or debris is going to come up. So just be aware, look away, you know, have your safety gear on, which I feel bad saying because I don't have my safety gear on. And then you always want to make sure it's closed. Now, if you forget to close it, what you'll notice once you turn it on is you're not gaining your pressure that you're looking for. So if that's the case, just flip it over. You can feel it, it's open, and then shut that valve off. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna turn this on so you can kind of hear it. Jade's right there, so you can kind of see. She probably doesn't even lift her head. So we're gonna put this on so you can hear. It is a compressor, so compressors are allowed, but for a compressor, this is ideal for me. So what we're looking for, if you can hear me, is that the pressure is at 90, which is what is optimal for the gun to work as it's intended. So that's what we kind of wait for. So we're going to make it really tight. We're just going to do it up here. And as you can see, it really grabs the wire. It doesn't pull too much so that it breaks it, because this is only 15 gauge wire. You know, so it is thin, but it does a really good job. So we usually do near the bottom here, and then a couple up here, and then one on the top. Now, we also put on baseboards because goats, once they discover a weak point, they will not leave it alone, and they will show the others, and then you'll have them in your neighbor's yard eating hostas or something. So, but as you can see, they're out here grazing. They don't give a who what we're doing. So it's actually really nice that you can do this when your animals are out and then not be scared. So that's how we fence. You know, and then once we have a connection, again, we would use these here if it was in the middle, but this is going to actually connect straight post to post. So we're not going to need to do the connection part. But that is how we fence. And that's why we fence the way that we do, so that it is economical. And you know, once you do something the hardest way, which this way is a little bit more labor intensive. So we're not getting an auger, because who wants to buy an auger? So you'd rent it, so that's an expense. It's a pickup, it's a drop off, you know, and then the hole is too big because you're making it either to fit the post in and fill in around it with concrete or rocks or whatever to make it stable, or you're still gonna have to pound. So when we were searching for our property, one thing that we did look for was land with very little rock, which is successful here. This process will not work for you if you have extremely rocky land. Now by rocky I mean like sheets of rock, not like pebbles or whatnot, obviously. And that was where we were prior to this at a friend's farm. It was a lot of rock, and that's why we had to use the backhoe to drive these posts in, which too labor intensive for me. Now if you have land that you can work with, this is the way for you. You're gonna feel great about it. It's gonna be affordable for you. You get some exercise out of it, and these are things like our fencing tool, our Dewalt hognose pliers, this bar, and our post pounder. Like, these are things that are gonna last forever. You know, when we die or get rid of farming or whatever happens in the future, these are gonna be in the same condition they are now. You know, there's no maintenance, there's no breaking. It's just gonna live and do what we need it to do. A little more effort's required, but you know what? It keeps you young and healthy. So this is my recommendation if you're doing homesteading kind of like us, you know, where you're looking for budget, efficiency, and portability. This is what you need right here. You can live without the fencing gun and compressor, obviously. And you know, I do actually encourage you to try to do the staples by hand, just so you know how good this gun is, what a time saver this gun is, if you do decide to go this way. But you don't have to, because fencing guns are a little bit more pricey and they do require the compressor. But you can do it all without anything that requires power and have a beautiful looking fence. So hopefully you like these ideas. If you do something a little different that I didn't mention here that we might like to know, comment below, or you know, do a video and show us, because we would love to see, you know, ways to improve on the homestead. But you know, it's starting to flake here. It's getting a little chilly, so I'm going to finish this fencing up so I can move on to other farm tasks. So I hope you enjoyed this informative video. If you have any questions about what I did talk about or what Dean talked about, just let us know in a comment below. And we're so excited to take you with our journey on fencing on a cold winter day.